Okay, so today we're going through a drill called squat therapy, and there's a lot of different variations you can do with this drill, but today I'm going to show you the variation with the bar and the rack. So when we're looking at the overhead squat, or just any squat in general, all of those kind of stem squats, so to speak, front squat, back squat, overhead squat, will be impaired if there's any kind of issues with your tree trunk squat, or in other words, your front squat. So it stands to reason if you have an excessive forward lean, if your chest starts to really pitch forward on your air squat, yes, of course, in some cases there are mobility drills that we need to do, but we also need to reinforce the correct movement pattern to really lock that in, and this is a really good way of doing it. So I've set a rack up roughly just about like lower chest height to begin with, and I'm going to use this as a prompt for my arms to keep them rising upwards and to force me to keep my chest upright or prevent me from pitching forwards. So it looks like this. The other great thing this does is that ordinarily if someone starts to roll forward or the arms start to drop down, you start to get this bad rounded back fold, and ideally we want the back to be in a nice neutral position. The bar and the rack keeping the arms up facilitate maintaining that neutral spine and reinforcing every single rep that you do, reinforcing a nice chest up but also spinal neutral position. And what I normally say if you're new to this is start with the rack relatively low, so I wouldn't go any higher than this to begin with. As you start to get more proficient with it, raise the height of the rack up, and then especially if you're working on locking in good movement patterns for your overhead squats, eventually you'll get to a point where the arms are almost more towards that position, and then you can progress to more things like the wall squat therapy and stuff like that, which we'll cover in a different video. One thing to add is that if you have any ankle deficits in mobility, as in if you've done the knee to wall test and you've struggled with that one, then what I like you to do for this is the same drill, but with the slight addition of adding in the plates. So with the plates, what you're going to do is just have your heels rested on top of them, so no more than that, ball and midfoot on the floor, just the heels on the plates. You could do this with lifting shoes or anything like that to substitute the heel lift that you get from the plates. And essentially we're doing this because if you have a deficit in ankle mobility, an excessive forward lean is created as a compensation to stop you falling over. So if you were to do this without the plates, but you had a restriction ankle range, you're going to end up compensating anyway and just dropping into the rack or having your feet spin out and ultimately reinforcing an incorrect movement pattern. So use that, if you haven't already, download the Unlock Overhead Squat because it goes through all the assessment for ankle restriction, limited ankle mobility, all that stuff, so you know which category you sit in, and it'll be able to tell you which drill to pick to get the best results.